Hi, my name is Justin, aka Ghost Reader, and today I remembered that I had a booktube channel and decided that I should do a video, and that is going to be my, this video is going to be my February TBR, so this is going to be all the books that I'm going to be reading in the month of February. I actually only had planned to read like 2 books, and that list grew to about 9, so I actually have 9 books to talk to you about today. But let's go ahead and get into it and talk about the books that I'm going to be reading this month. I have a lot of good ones. Actually, already read 2 of them. Believe it or not, I mean we're already 10 days into the month, so I've already read 2. So technically, only have 7 to go. But I'll talk about those 2, at least the 2 that I read, but not in detail. I'll do that in my wrap up at the end of the month. So the first book that I'm going to talk about is The Holocaust, A New History by Lawrence Reeds. And this book basically, of course, it covers the Holocaust. The author himself has spent 25 years talking to survivors, interviewing people who were alive at the time. And he collected all that information that he wrote this book. And in this book, he strives to show that the Holocaust, instead of it being like this big blueprint that the Nazis set down, got together one day, sat down and decided, okay, this is how we're going to do it. Rather, it was more of a series of escalation. So from one particular action to another until finally this thing began to take shape. And next thing you know, everything is in place for this unfortunate piece of history to happen. I thought, I'm going to give my thoughts on this at the end of the month, but that's what this particular book is about. So the next book that I read, actually the next 3 books that I read are by Black authors, and the next one that I read and have been meaning to read for a while because I really liked the first book that I read by the author, and that's The Death of Vivek Oji by Ojie. I already read this with friend Sophie, and I still have to talk about the ending with her. But this book is about the mystery surrounding Vivek Oji and how their life affected the family, their family, and their friends as well. Very well written, and that's all I will say about this book until my wrap up at the end of the month. So the next book that I want to talk about is The Dead Are Rising, The Life of Malcolm X by Les Payne and his daughter Tamara Payne. And basically, this book is a biography of Malcolm X, and basically it basically adds to like the autobiography of Malcolm X, so add some more detail in there and also make some corrections by going back, looking at historical records and talking to people who were around Malcolm X at that time. I started this book, I'm 11 chapters in. I actually got this to review last year, so I basically picked up from the point I left off at last year and I continued to read it. Very good. I'm learning a lot about Malcolm X that I didn't know or kind of knew, maybe just a brief mention of some of his like life in the past before he became the man we know as Malcolm X. So it's been really good so far, and I'm very, very interested in it. The next book that I'm going to talk about is The Conductors by Nicole Glover, and this book is a fantasy book that has these 2 people who used to work on the Underground Railroad. Now that the Civil War is over, they moved to Philadelphia, and basically they solve crimes that the white police don't touch. And basically, one of their friends dies, and it draws them into this mystery that includes the wealthy elite of Philadelphia. At least that's what I got from the synopsis of this book. I have to do a review for this book as well. This book actually comes out in March, so I'm reading it this month, and I'll be releasing a review for this book actually in March, so you can look out for a review video then. Next book that I'm going to be reading this month is The Enlightenment, The Pursuit of Happiness from 1680 to 1790 by Richie Robertson. And this is a history of the Enlightenment. The author takes us through the different ideas and people who influenced the Enlightenment and how the Enlightenment grew and became popular in Europe and eventually, influenced the rest of the world and how we think today. I think I actually started reading this book so far, and it is a very interesting read. I will be doing a review of this book, so you can look for the review of this book around February 25th, I believe. The next book that I'm going to talk about is Tower of Skulls, a history of the Asia-Pacific War from July 1937 to May 1942. This is written by Richard B. Frank, and this book, as the title says, is about the Asia-Pacific War. Focuses mainly on Japan and China. This in this part is supposed to be actually a 3-volume series. So you learned the history behind the conflict between China and Japan, what was motivating Japan, the politics between the two countries, the expansion of Japan throughout the Pacific, at least up until 1942. And I'm like 50% of the way through this book. Actually, I read 70 or listened to 70% of the book, but I actually went back just to kind of make sure that I got everything. So I'm around the time that Japan is planning the Pearl Harbor attack. But yeah, that is what this book about. And my next book, I think, complements that quite well. And that is Showa, 1939 and 1944, A History of Japan. Now, by Shigeru Mizuki. Now, if you've been on this channel for a while, you've seen me read the other books in this series. There's a volume before it, which covers from like, I think, the 1920s till 1939. And then the other two cover from 1944 to like 1989. So he's basically telling the story of his life and the story of Japan. And this book starts with the war starting in Japan. So I picked this up in December. So I finally will get to read this. As you can see, I don't really care about the fact that I skipped a book in the series, but now that I have the book, I can go ahead and finish reading it. The next book that I'm going to be reading is A Burning by Megha Majumdar, and this book is about 3 people living in, I believe it's India, and one of them is accused of being part of a terrorist attack. One can further his political career if he basically pushes or tries to nail this person for that attack. And then the third person that this book focuses on has the alibi that can prove the person who got accused of the terrorist attack. It can get them out of trouble. However, that will put them in the place where they can get messed up. I'm actually reading this book as part of a book club that I'm part of with David from the Potamus. So we'll be reading it and discussing it at the end of the month. It looks to be really good. I read the synopsis because I haven't like joined in the books that they have been reading because I've been in the slump. But when I saw the synopsis for this book, I was like, I think I need to jump in on this one. So I think that this would be a good one. I picked it up via audiobook, so I hope that this one is as good as the synopsis makes it seem. And one last book that I almost forgot to mention is Prospero Burns, Wolves Unleashed by Dan Abnett. This is part of the Horus Heresy series that I'm reading from the Warhammer 40k universe. I am on book 14, which is this one. I think have up to like 56 books to go and counting, because they're still writing books in the series. But this book, from what my initial reading of it is, because I read I'm on chapter 1, started reading chapter 1 of it, is that this guy who's called Uplander, because he's not from the planet that most of the story takes place on, I believe. He arrives on the planet Fairness, which is the domain of the Primarch Leman Russ, who was the leader of the Lunar Wolves, who are a legion of the Emperor that's going around in this crusade for the Emperor. And I believe this book covers from the period this guy arrives on the planet to when Leman Russ goes to face his brother Magnus and fight him on Prospero, which is Magnus's domain. If I read, I think it was 1,000 Suns, I believe, which was 2 books before, which is about this attack on Prospero. So this book, I guess, gives us the background as to what Leman Russ was doing, or like his Lunar Wolves were doing before they attacked Prospero in that book. So this should be interesting because it's already about an event that I already know about and have read about. So I wonder if this perspective will be just as interesting as the other perspective that I read 2 books ago. So that's going to be it for today's video. Those are the 9 books, or 7 now, that I plan to read in the month of February. I hope your February is good. Let me know what you're reading down in the comment section below. And if you like this video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more videos from me, please subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at GhostReads28, on Instagram at JustinGhostReader, and on Goodreads. The link to that is down in the description box below. So as always, keep reading, and Black Lives Matter.